Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalam ala Rasulillah wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'een. Rabbi shrah li sadri wa yassir li amri wahlul uqdatam min lisani yafqahu qawli. In today's talk, inshallah, we will continue our discussion on the life of Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu an, and in that specific seerah, we will talk about the army of Usama bin Zayd that radiallahu anhuma, that Abu Bakr sent after Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam passed away, and Abu Bakr was the Khalifah at that time. To understand the purpose of sending the army of Usama bin Zayd, we have to have a little bit of a background behind that. First, to understand this army was sent against the Romans, and in the time of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, and even later on, the two major superpowers of that time were Roman Empire and the Persian Empire. And the Persian Empire were in the north of Arabian Peninsula. Mostly they had control over there. And they actually in general looked down on the Arabs in general. And they had a very low opinion about them, and they did not even bother to come and conquer the land or anything. They do have some control in the outside area of the Arabian Peninsula, but they did not really bother to even come and take over the land, to seize the land or the Arabian Peninsula in general. And when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam's power and the strength of the Islamic State was expanding, was increasing, and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam started doing the da'wah to the rulers outside of the Arabian Peninsula, including the superpowers, Roman and Persians. And when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam sent a letter to the Roman king of the Byzantine Empire, and we talked a little bit about the incidents that happened in the life of Rasulullah sallallahu already, but just to remind why this army was prepared. So when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam sent a letter to the king of the Byzantine or the Roman king, and the letter was sent through Al-Harith bin Umair al-Azdi, and he was supposed to take the letter to the ruler of Busra, who would have taken to the king. And on the way back, he was actually, Al-Harith bin Umair al-Azdi was killed by Shurhabil bin Amr al-Ghassani, and that was a major crime considered among the states at that time. That was a norm to kill an ambassador, and that was killed. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, he sent an army during his time under the leadership of Zayd bin al-Harith, and he was martyred. He was the father of Usama bin Zayd. And not only him, but besides that, two more leaders of the Muslim armies back to back, that included Abdullah bin Rawaha and Ja'far bin Abi Talib, radiallahu anh. They were all three were martyred, and Khalid bin Walid is the one who was able to pull the Muslim army out of that difficult situation, and in a manner that was not a loss either. As a matter of fact, it became very effective for the Muslims, but Muslims did lose quite a bit there. And that was an army of 3,000 up against the 200,000 army of the Romans. So after that, the incident of Tabuk happened. No fight really happened between Muslims and the Romans, but Muslims came out victorious in that one also, because they were able to collect jizya from many of the tribes who were actually under the control of Romans, and they came under the control of Muslims. Then when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam fell ill to his last journey towards Allah Azza wa Jal, he actually prepared an army, and he gave the leadership to Usama bin Zayd radiallahu anhuma. And the idea was that he will go and he will fight the Romans, the same place where Zayd bin al-Harith was martyred. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam prepared the army right before he fell sick, and the army was actually a few miles away from Medina stationed, and they heard the news about Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam being sick, and they camped the army there, and they want to know what to do. And when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam passed away, they were still waiting for now from the Khalifa at that time, which was Abu Bakr Siddiq, that what are they supposed to be doing. Now that's one aspect of it. Other aspect to remember here is after the death of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the major number of Arab tribes actually they apostated, they rebelled against the Islamic State, and that included the one who started following the false prophet like Musaylama Kadhab, and some of them they became the apostates in the sense of because they were not willing to give the zakah to Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu, who was a Khalifatul Rasul, who was the successor of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now, in that situation, Abu Bakr was in a very tough situation because this army had most of the Sahaba in that army, and Osama bin Zayd at that time was very young. The variation of the reports mentioned that he was 17, 18, or 20. Whichever the number was, it becomes irrelevant. He was very young. That's the key thing. And there were many Sahaba under him who were very senior Sahaba. As a matter of fact, when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam prepared the army, Abu Bakr and Umar both were under Osama bin Zayd in that army. So now Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam passed away, and now the Sahaba, they were kind of in a limbo of what should be done. So there were two main issues the Sahaba had at that time. One was actually they showed that the age of Osama bin Zayd, and the second one was the political situation and the strength of the Muslims at that time because of many of the Arab tribes, most of the Arab tribes, as a matter of fact, they apostated or they rebelled against the state in different ways. Now, so these were two main things. One was security of the Muslims, and second one was about the age of Osama bin Zayd, or the maturity according to their understanding. And when it comes to the age part, they actually showed it to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam also. They raised this thing about him, about his age. And Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam's response was that if you are critical of his leadership, talking about Osama bin Zayd, well, then you were also critical of his father's leadership. And Rasulullah continued on, by Allah, he was indeed worthy of being a leader, and he was among the most beloved people for me. And now that he has departed, talking about Zayd bin Harith, radiallahu anh, had been martyred, this one, referring to Osama, is among the most beloved people for me. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam showed that the love of his towards Osama bin Zayd, and it was left there. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam did not change the leadership of the army, even though it was pointed out to him about the age of Osama, that he is too young. But Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam kept it this way, and Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam passed away. Now the issue was after the death of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the state kind of became weak because of number one thing, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam passed away. That was a huge shock for the ummah. And we have talked about in the past about when Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam passed away, how the Muslims were, and Abu Bakr was the one who really lifted the morals of the Muslims at that time. Then Rasulullah, Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu an, when he took the power and he was going to talk about the Osama bin Zayd's army, before that he gave a talk. He gave a speech, and he said, "O people, I am like you, and I do not know, perhaps you will heap upon me responsibilities which only the Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam was able to bear. Verily Allah chose Rasulullah Muhammad sallallahu alaihi wasallam from among all living things, and he protected him from defects and errors." Referring to that, now they have given the power to Abu Bakr, but Abu Bakr is a human being, is not ma'soom from the perspective of a prophet. Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, prophets were ma'soom, that they were protected to make a mistake to convey the message from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, while now he is implementing and carrying the message of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Abu Bakr, of course, he's not getting the wahi, so he can make a mistake. So he's saying that, as for me, I am not an innovator, rather I am nothing more than a follower. If I become upright in my affairs and in the way I rule over you, then follow me. But if I go astray, then correct me. So obviously, Rasulullah ﷺ is not the way that he would go astray, because he was protected by Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So Abu Bakr is referring to himself here, that if he does that, correct me. And then he goes on, when the Rasulullah ﷺ died, not a single person from his nation was able to claim that Rasulullah ﷺ has done anything, any kind of wrong to him. And indeed, the shaitan attacks me. So when he comes to me, stay away from me. Meaning, he's referring to his anger. Really, there are some people who have forgotten their appointed terms, the death, and have worked for others instead of doing deeds for their own hereafter. So beware of becoming like them. Work hard, be quick. Seek out safety and seek out safety. For behind you is a quick pursuer, talking about the death. Be vigilant and ready for death, and learn from the lessons your fathers, sons, and brothers from your fathers, brothers, and sons. And not only that, Abu Bakr also reminded the people about the pleasure of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and the previous nations, how they came and how they passed, and nobody remembers them. The only thing that you really remember about them are the deeds. So no matter how powerful those rulers were, they left. And then Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anh reminded the people about that, how people can come and go and you don't even remember them. Allah Azza wa Jal says in the Quran, وَكَمْ أَهْلَكْنَا قَبْلَهُمْ مِنْ قَرْنٍ هَلْ تُحِسُّ مِنْهُمْ مِنْ أَحَدٍ أَوْ تَسْمَعُ لَهُمْ رِكْزًا. That how many generations before them have we destroyed? Can you, Rasulullah referring to him, to find a single one of them or hear even a whisper of them? So the nations come and go. So we have to, he's reminding them the fear of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. But there are many lessons from his that speech that can be taken. Just to point out few of them, that he reminded them about that he can make mistake. He is not like Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, the one who was ruling over them prior to him. That he can make mistakes, correct him. That's one thing. And he reminded them to the identity of the Muslims, basically, which is based on the Quran and the Sunnah and nothing else. So the meaning was, as long as he follows Allah and his messenger, obey him. If he does not, then correct him. And he mentioned other things which I have mentioned in his speech, and there are lessons for us to remember that how it impacts our life. So the death is one of the key things to remember, that the death can come to any one of us at any time, and we should be prepared for facing Allah Azza wa Jal. Okay, now and then when Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anh, he wanted to send the army of Usama bin Zayd. Then some of the people came to Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anh, and now they talked to him about the situation of the Medina. They mentioned to them about the people are apostating, people are rebelling against the state, and it can be a threat for the Medina. And now at this time, to send the army of Usama bin Zayd out, which has most of the Sahaba in that army, that can be very dangerous from the security perspective, for the security of the Khalifah, for the security of Ummahatul Mu'mineen, the wives of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So they came and they wanted to talk to Abu Bakr Siddiq and talk him out of this decision of sending Usama's army. So they suggested basically that he should call off this expedition and keep the men of Usama's army close by Medina. These men, because these men make up the majority of the Muslims, they argued for the Arabs, as you can clearly see, have shaken free of you, and they are plotting against the Muslims now. So it is not wise to send the army. Now, for that, it's not only that a lot of Sahaba, they were on this opinion that it should not be sent. It's not that they had a fear or something. For them, strategically, if you think from rational perspective, that sounds the right thing to do. And as a matter of fact, he was the Khalifa, and Khalifa is the one who has the command to send the army or not to send the army. Except one important point that was missing, and Abu Bakr did not miss that. And that point was that this army was prepared by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam himself, and he is the one who sent this army. And now, for Abu Bakr to stop that will be disobedience to Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. And based on that, he reminded actually to the Sahaba about the importance of following the commands of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam, because Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam is the one who prepared the army. Abu Bakr did not find any reason for himself to disobey that command. As Allah Azza wa Jal says, وَمَا كَانَ لِلْمُؤْمِنٍ وَلَا مُؤْمِنَةٍ إِذَا قَضَى اللَّهُ وَرَسُولُهُ أَمْرًا أَنْ يَكُونَ لَهُمْ الْخِيَرَةُ مِنْ أَمْرِهِمْ وَمَنْ يَعْصِ اللَّهَ وَرَسُولَهُ فَقَدْ ضَلَّ ضَلَالًا مُبِينًا. Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala says that it is not fitting for a believer, men or women, to, when Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has decided a matter, to have a choice in that matter Allah has decided, Allah and His Messenger has decided. And whosoever disobeys Allah and His Messenger, for sure he is on a clear deviation. So that's a very basic piece of information that Abu Bakr was reminding. And as a Muslim, we should always remember, there's many a times we come to a point where we see that following the command of Allah Azza wa Jal may result into some sort of loss. It could be health, it could be wealth, it could be anything in this dunya, from the dunya perspective especially. And it's not necessarily it's a for sure, but it seems like that can happen. Now, Abu Bakr did not go along what the mind says, and this is the important thing for a believer to have. When he or she is following the commands of Allah Azza wa Jal, it's not the mind that decides what is right and wrong. And that's what Abu Bakr did here. It's not the mind that decides whether the army should go or not, because it was decided by Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. There was a messenger of Allah. If it was somebody else, it's his decision, then it was very easy for Abu Bakr to turn it down. That's not a problem. But this is messenger of Allah. He's the one who prepared the army. Hence, he continued on. And but now after that, even Osama bin Zayd, who was about 3 miles away from Medina, the area called Al-Jurf, and the army was sitting there, and Osama actually, radiallahu an, he sent somebody to find out from Abu Bakr whether we should go or we should leave, because he was also wanted to come back because of the situation. And when Abu Bakr received this message about that, he said, have we met, have with me not only the best of the Muslims, but also the majority of all Muslims. That's what Osama bin Zayd was saying. And I fear for the safety of Khalifa, of Rasulullah, of the Medina, which is the inviolable city of Rasulullah sallallahu, and all the Muslims. I fear that each of the foregoing will attack by the mushrikeen. So that was the concern of Osama bin Zayd. And not only Osama bin Zayd, but also Umar bin Khattab radiallahu an, who was also, he also expressed his fear to Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu an. Now, when and because Umar was actually kind of pushed by the Sahaba to go and talk to Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu an. And then when Umar went to Abu Bakr and asked him to not send the army of Osama, now Abu Bakr's response to him was very interesting. And his response was, by the one who has the soul of Abu Bakr in his hand, had I thought that wild predatory animals would make off with me, I would still send out Osama's army in accordance with what Rasulullah commanded Osama to do. And even if I were the last person to remain in these cities, I would still do the same. See, that's the firmness of Abu Bakr that we have to remember, because that was the turning point yet one more time again for the Muslim Ummah that happened in the time of Abu Bakr. that it was becoming a very weak state, and it was about to be attacked from different angles, different directions. And this very decision of Abu Bakr played a huge role to push away the enemies of Islam at that time. So Abu Bakr was, and Umar bin Khattab radiallahu an, when he heard that, he realized that Abu Bakr is not changing his opinion regarding that because of the weakness. Then the Sahaba actually pushed him about the age of Osama also. So now Umar went and talked to Abu Bakr about that, and Abu Bakr actually, he got up, he jumped from where he was sitting, and he took hold of Umar from his beard. And he radiallahu anh was he was very angry. And he goes, it was the Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam who appointed him, and now you are ordering me to dismiss him from his position as a leader of army. Now that made Umar ashamed. Actually, he realized his mistakes, and he went back to the Sahaba, and Umar was angry at them. He responded, "Go away from, may your mothers to be bereaved over you. See what treatment I received from the Khalifah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam because of you." So Umar realized that his mistake, and he backed out now. Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anh, he wanted to send the army. He continued with his plan, the plan that was from Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Now, when he went out, so after convincing the Sahaba, whether they were 100% convinced or not, to show them his command regarding this issue, he went out and he made sure that the leadership of Osama is clear in the mind of the Muslims. It was not that he was trying to show the leadership, was asking the others to obey him while he himself does not give him respect, because what if he treats him like a youth or something who does not have enough experience? No, he showed that he is the leader that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam appointed, hence what he did. So when they were walking out from where the army was camped, he actually he had the mount that was controlled by Abdurrahman bin Auf, but he was not riding on it, while Osama was riding on his mount. And even Osama radiallahu anh, he asked Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anh to get on the mount, but he refused. He wanted to show that he is walking, and the leader is Osama bin Zayd radiallahu anh. So he did not want to make people think of him that just because he is older or he is the Khalifah to Rasul, he is not giving, or he thinks of him, he's same as Osama bin Zayd, even though he was the head of the state at that time. But he wanted to show, he was showing what he was preaching. He was showing from his own actions as well. And after that, Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anh, actually, he took him to the area where the army was about to leave from there. He did a couple of things. One was he gave the advice to the army and advice to Osama bin Zayd radiallahu anh regarding how to fight. And I'll talk about a little bit about those advice as well. But one more thing he did was he asked, and he made a request to Osama bin Zayd to leave Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anh behind him, because he needed an advisor around him. Allah knows the best. Maybe he already had in his mind regarding preparing Umar bin Khattab radiallahu anh for the future as well. So he used to keep Umar close all the time radiallahu anh. So and now, instead of commanding Osama, because Rasulullah put Umar bin Khattab under him as well, he requested Osama if it's okay with Osama bin Zayd radiallahu anhu that to leave Umar radiallahu anh behind. So he requested, and Osama bin Zayd's response was in affirmation. He left him behind with Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anh. And then Abu Bakr, he gave a piece of advice to the army of Osama bin Zayd radiallahu anh. He told him, he said, I can advise you regarding 10 matters. Memorize them for me. He said, number one, do not be treacherous. Do not wrongly take from the spoils of war, meaning until it has been distributed. do not deceive, and do not mutilate the bodies, because in Islam it is not allowed. Even if you are in a battlefield, somebody is dead, you do not mutilate the body. Do not cut down a tree and that bears the fruit. Do not slaughter a sheep or a cow or a camel just unless you need to eat or you're going to use it, not just for the fun, for the heck of it. Verily, you will pass by people who have completely dedicated to their lives for worshiping, monasteries, talking about any kind of a priest or somebody who was not involved in battlefield. Do not hurt them. And then also he says, you will come across people who will come to you with a dish that contains in many colors of food, and if the center of their if you eat something from it and then eat something else from it, mention the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. He also mentioned, and you will also meet the people who have shaved the center of their heads. There was some signs that were given to Abu Bakr. I think it is from the hadith of Rasulullah. I cannot recall at this point. Have left everything around. If they have left all the hair around the head and just shave it in the middle, then you feel like the hair looks like a hairband. Use all of your strength to fight them with your swords. And the last one was, go forth in the name of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. So remember these 10 things when you are engaged in the war. And when it comes to Osama bin Zayd, before he was going to leave him from there, he was going to continue his journey. He told him, do what Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam ordered you to do. So begin with the land of Quda'a and then go to Abil. These are the two areas Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam mentioned him to go. And do not be negligent regarding anything Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam told you to do, commanded you to do. And so do not be in the rush to come back. Instead, make sure you carry out all his orders. Whatever Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam commanded you, do that. And then come back. And by the grace of Allah Azza wa Jal, Usama bin Zayd's army was victorious for the tasks Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam assigned, and they came back with a lot of spoils of wars. Their journey lasted for about 40 days, and they stayed there for a long period of time as well. Now, interesting thing to remember here is, when the army of Usama bin Zayd went there to fight against the Romans, the Roman king was actually surprised. He got two messages at the same time. One was the coming of the army of Usama bin Zayd, and also the death of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. So two things came, and he was confused about this. That what kind of a people are these? That their companion, their leader, their prophet, Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam passed away, and they are out there to fight against the superpower of that time. So that actually put the fear in their hearts. Instead of thinking otherwise, they got scared. Actually, he got scared. What kind of people are these that they are going to fight us at that time? It means they are very strong. So that's one thing happened for the Herakl, and he actually refrained to attack the army of Usama bin Zayd. So, but they continue to attack those two specific areas which Rasulullah commanded, and they conquered those areas. And on the other hand, when we look at all those apostates, the Murtad, the one who were going along with Musaylamah Kadhab, or Murtadeen Zakat, the one who were not giving the zakat to Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu, the rebels, all of them also had the fear in their heart. They thought of it, we have underestimated the strength of the Islamic State at that time. So they refrained to attack at that time as well. So we can see that this preemptive action, which was actually connected with following the command of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala and his messenger, that resulted into a huge victory, and the strength of the Muslims, instead of at the verge of being destroyed, they came out victorious and stronger than before, actually. So, and then they were able to fight with not only the superpower, but take care of those apostates as well, which we'll talk about next week, inshallah. Few of the lessons, just for a reminder, that we can take out of this army of Osama bin Zayd. Number one thing, that hardships do not just last forever. It can come and go. So we should not be, we should not just get disheartened if we are in a difficult time. As Allah Azza wa Jalla says, وَتِلْكَ الْأَيَّامُ نُدَاوِلُهَا بَيْنَ النَّاسِ. And so the days of good and bad, or good or not so good, they come and go. They take the turns. One day you come out victorious, other day you may not, may be weak. But these days come and go. Main idea is that you continue to follow what Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has ordered. Number two, look, many things happen in life that should not deter us away from following Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And look, the situation Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anhu was, Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam passed away. One of the darkest days for the Muslim Ummah, that Prophet sallallahu alayhi wa sallam passed away. And he did not leave the path, and he continued to follow the commands of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Number three lesson to learn. We saw that the Sahaba and Abu Bakr had differences about how to deal the situation of sending the army. And Abu Bakr was keep coming back for these disputes with the answers that Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam commanded us to do this. He cannot pull himself out or not to follow the command that Rasulullah ﷺ did. So any disputes that we can have, we should always remember to go back to Allah and His Messenger, not just thinking from our own mind or thinking about what I think or you think is right. So the main idea is to follow Allah and His Messenger no matter what the situation is. Whatever kind of a dispute that we may have with each other, we always have to go back to Allah and His Messenger. Number four, Abu Bakr showed from this incident very clearly that you practice what you preach. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala does not like that. لِمَا تَقُولُ مَا لَا تَفْعَلُونَ. Why do you say something what you don't do? And Allah really hates this kind of a personality that who says something but acts something differently. Okay, so we can see that in the case of Abu Bakr. When it comes to the status of Usama bin Zayd as a young man leading the army, he showed from his own example to the people that he's a leader, he should be respected. Don't undermine him just because of his age. And then the final small quick lesson about that was the effect of the Usama's army on the reputation of the Muslims at that time. That impact was because of the action Abu Bakr took. Many a times we find Muslims on individual basis, and today those countries who are majority Muslims, ruled by Muslims, and they are avoiding to follow the commands of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. Allah is calling towards life, Allah is calling towards haya, and they are still following something else. I was just recently reading a news article that about Imran Khan visiting Sri Lanka, and over there he said that he has learned something from the rulers of Sri Lanka how to take care of the economic situation in Pakistan. La hawla wa la quwwata illa billah. He is visiting a country that is recently have slaughtered the Muslims over there, and not only that, after that they were burning the bodies of the Muslims who were dying because of either COVID or whatsoever, but they were not even letting them bury the bodies of those Muslims. And now he goes over there, and now he has found some sort of magic trick or something that he's going to solve the problems from that. While we are commanded to follow Quran and Sunnah to solve our problems, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us the solution for every kind of a situation, whether it is economic situations, problems we have, whether it's a social problem we have, or ruling problem, or judicial, or whatsoever. Islam provides us a comprehensive way of life. Unfortunately, it has been 100 years the Muslims have lost the Khilafah that was protecting the Ummah, and now because of that loss we are continuously being disgraced. And it's not the Muslims who have been disgraced. Muslims and the humanity at large have been disgraced and degraded because of lack of the system of Islam in the shape of the Khilafah. And we ask Allah Azza wa Jal to bring us back the Khilafah that can give us the justice, not only to the Muslims but to the whole mankind. I'll stop here, inshallah, and we'll continue our session from next week, inshallah, about the rest of the life of Abu Bakr Siddiq radiallahu anh. If there's any questions or comments, inshallah, I will try